And welcome back to another Wiki Wednesday Whispers. This week we'll be covering the FIFA World Cup. Last week we talked about the FIFA World Cup 2014. This week we're going to be talking just about the World Cup as a whole. So I hope that things are going well in the World Cup for whichever team you might be supporting this year. I'm actually recording this before things have started, so I guess I can't comment on how things are going, but I'm sure that it's going to be grand. So let's get started. The FIFA World Cup, often simply the World Cup, is an international association football competition contested by the senior men's national teams of the members of the Fédération Internationale de Football Association, the sport's global governing body. The championship has been awarded every 4 years since the inaugural tournament in 1930, except in 1942 and 1946, when it was not held because of the Second World War. The current champions are Spain, who won the 2010 tournament in South Africa. The current format of the tournament involves 32 teams competing for the title at venues within the host nations over a period of about a month. This phase is often called the World Cup Finals, a qualification phase which currently takes place over the preceding 3 years, is used to determine which teams qualify for the tournament together with the host nations. The 19 World Cup tournaments have been won by 8 different national teams. Brazil have won 5 times, and they are the only team to have played in every tournament. The other World Cup winners are Italy with 4, West Germany with 3 titles, Argentina, and inaugural winners Uruguay with 2 titles each, and England, France, and Spain with 1 title each. The World Cup is among the world's most widely viewed sporting event. An estimated 715.1 million people watched the final match of the 2006 FIFA World Cup held in Germany. The next 3 World Cups will be hosted in Brazil, Russia, and Qatar. Previous international competitions. The world's first international football match was a challenge match played in Glasgow in 1872 between Scotland and England, which ended in a 0-0 draw. The first international tournament, the inaugural edition of the British Home Championship, took place in 1884. As football grew in popularity in other parts of the world at the turn of the 20th century, it was held as a demonstration sport with no medals awarded at the 1900 and 1904 Summer Olympics. However, the IOC has retroactively upgraded their status to official events, and at the 1906 Interclated Games. After FIFA was founded in 1904, it tried to arrange an international football tournament between nations outside the Olympic framework in Switzerland in 1906. These were very early days for international football, and the official history of FIFA describes the competition as having been a failure. At the 1908 Summer Olympics in London, football became an official competition. Planned by the Football Association, England's football governing body, the event was for amateur players only and was regarded suspiciously as a show rather than a competition. Great Britain, represented by the England national amateur football team, won the gold medals. They repeated the feat in 1912 in Stockholm. With the Olympic event continuing to be contested only between amateur teams, Sir Thomas Lipton organized the Sir Thomas Lipton Trophy Tournament in Turin in 1909. The Lipton Tournament was a championship between individual clubs, not national teams, from different nations, each one of which represented an entire nation. The competition is sometimes described as the first national team. Lipton invited West Auckland, an amateur side from County Durham, to represent England instead. West Auckland won the tournament and returned in 1911 to successfully defend their title. In 1914, FIFA agreed to recognize the Olympic tournament as a World Football Championship for amateurs and took responsibility for managing the event. This paved the way for the world's first intercontinental football competition, the 1920 Summer Olympics, contested by Egypt and 13 European teams, and won by Belgium. Uruguay won the next two Olympic football tournaments in 1924 and 1928. Those were also the first two Open World Championships, as 1924 was the start of FIFA's professional era. World Cups before World War II. Due to the success of the Olympic football tournament, FIFA, with President Jules Rimet as the driving force, again started looking at staging its own international tournament outside of the Olympics. On the 28th of May 1928, FIFA Congress in Amsterdam decided to stage a world championship itself, with Uruguay now two-time official football world champions, and to celebrate their centenary of independence, FIFA named Uruguay as the host country to the inaugural World Cup tournament. The national associations of selected nations were invited to send a team, but the choice of Uruguay as a venue for the competition meant a long and costly trip across the Atlantic Ocean for European sides. Indeed, no European nation nor country pledged to send a team until 2 months before the start of competition. Rimet eventually persuaded teams from Belgium, France, Romania, and Yugoslavia to make the trip. In total, 13 nations took part, 7 from South America, 4 from Europe, and 2 from North America. The first two World Cup matches took place simultaneously on the 13th of July 1930 and were won by France and USA, who defeated Mexico 4-1 and Belgium 3-0 respectively. The first goal in World Cup history was scored by Lucien Laurent of France. In the final, Uruguay defeated Argentina 4-2 in front of a crowd of 93,000 people in Montevideo, and in doing so became the first nation to win the World Cup. After the creation of the World Cup, the 1932 Summer Olympics held in Los Angeles did not plan to include football as part of the schedule due to the low popularity of the sport in the United States, as American football had been growing in popularity. FIFA and the IOC also disagreed over the status of amateur players, and so football was dropped from the games. Olympic football returned at the 1936 Summer Olympics, but was now overshadowed by the more prestigious World Cup. The issues facing the early World Cup tournaments were difficulties of intercontinental travel and war. Few South American teams were willing to travel to Europe for the 1934 and 1938 tournaments with Brazil. The only South American team to compete in both the 1942 and 1946 competitions, which Nazi Germany and Brazil sought to host, were canceled due to World War II and its aftermath. Kind of seems like there are a lot of things that were canceled because of that.